meant to put the camera down. I mean the phone down. If I had to adjust the camera.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So can I hang up? Okay.
Good evening. Hello, good evening, everyone. We're ready to get started if you want to find your seats. Welcome to Neuehouse. My name is Meredith. I'm the director of programming here. Oh, there they are. Back row. Great. Welcome to Neuehouse. If it's your first time here and you're not familiar with Neuehouse, we are a co-working space for people in creative fields with a platform for cultural programming, doing events that touch all creative disciplines. But really what we're passionate about is to be a place that houses creatives during the day and to be a place for discourse on contemporary culture, which includes creativity, politics, how we live our lives, working lives, personal lives, political lives. So we're more than thrilled to be part of a really, really important day and cool conversation that we're going to have tonight, 50-50 Day. I'm going to introduce the co-founder of today, Julie Hermelin, who is a member here. Which, to bring you this film today and this discussion, which we are one of 11,000 events that's happened all over the world today, discussing how to get to a more gender-balanced world. And I want to thank you, Julie, for bringing this type of conversation to us and to be talking about something really positive. You know, there's so much negativity surrounding politics and kind of everything these days, and I love that we're talking about how to do something really great. So I'll let you introduce the panelists, our wonderful special guest, and thanks all for coming, and thank you, Julie.
Hello, everyone. Hello, thank you. There's like all my friends in the crowd. I need to hug her. It's like my bat mitzvah or something. And Susan, who I just interviewed, 15 minutes ago. And
I'm not leaving. I'm getting wine.
So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you Neuehouse for hosting this. I'm here holding the fort in LA, but the rest of the team and the other co-founders, Tiffany Schlane, who you'll see her face in a few minutes. She directed the film, and she's directed and starred in the film. And our other co-founder, Sawyer Steele, we've been working. Quite a bit to make this day happen, and Mackenzie Darling. So that's really the four of us, and many others, but really have been driving this thing for a number of months. So I don't want to say too much about the film before, but I just will say that for some context, we made this film before the election happened as part of our desire to put a pin in what moment we thought was happening for our country, to take stock of where we were and what the world was going to be like going forward. That didn't happen. That said, the film we found had even more resonance afterwards, and the need for a bigger conversation around the values that we were trying to push forward in that film was necessary. So without giving too much more about the film, I'm thrilled to invite up our special guest, First Lady of Los Angeles, Aimee Wakeland, who's been active organizer, who's been active in organizations that empower women and girls, and has taken several initiatives as First Lady of Los Angeles to further gender equity, which you'll hear about. And I know I have the honor to sit on the XX Fund Executive Committee with her, which is a nonprofit dedicated to giving grants to organizations that empower women and girls in LA. Some of the other initiatives Aimee's done are launching the report on the status of women and girls in Los Angeles, whose aim is to provide information and serve as a touchstone for more in-depth evaluations of gender equality throughout Los Angeles. And last month, Aimee and Mayor Garcetti announced the inaugural Los Angeles State of Women and Girls Address and the Young Women's Assembly, which brought together civic leaders and thought leaders. When we were making the film and we were programming this global Q&A, we were looking to really find people, men and women, that have done really good work in this field, and I pretty much begged Aimee and Eric to both participate because it was my pleasure to be able to highlight the work they've been doing in our city for this important issue, and it's really substantive. So I was happy that we could highlight that on this day.
I think I have. Yes. So thank you, Julie. I love the work that we do together with the XX Fund, and I know there's another board member in this room too, up there in the back. It's a real pleasure to sit with the 100 or so women that participate with us in that and think about ways in which we can invest in women and girls who are working on the ground on social justice issues here in the city of Los Angeles. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you all today to recognize 50/50 Day, which based on news reports Julie was sharing with me, is widely believed to be a long-standing existing holiday already. So this is working in your favor. I want to thank the amazing women behind the documentary who worked so hard to make this day possible, specifically also Lynette and Tiffany. Yoo-hoo! Is Lynette even here? She ran around to do some more work. There she is, right here. Thanks for all of your work. So in just a few moments, we're going to actually watch this film and be a part of 50/50 Day in LA. But right now, I want to share with you, for those of you who haven't connected to this event, that there are men and women across the world engaging in events and having conversations just like this one right now. They've been doing it all day today. Conversations that will bring about tangible change in our communities and conversations that will help us reach the goal of a gender-balanced globe. We are all here on behalf of the cause of gender equality. This cause is not just about equal pay for equal work, though it's well past time that we have that. This cause is not just about universal and affordable access to health care, even though Washington seems to think that being a woman is a pre-existing condition. It's true. This cause is not just about women assuming greater leadership roles or becoming heads of state. Julie mentioned that they had put this film together at a time when they were thinking of a different political moment. The reality is that we didn't get that political moment in this country, but I hope to share with you this evening about some other political moments that have been achieved here locally. Hopefully to give you all hope about what's possible at different levels of government in this particular climate. This cause is about all of the things that I just mentioned and so many more, not just any one of them. This cause is about coming together to deliver true equality. It's about a society that spans race and class and political persuasion and one's employment status and sexual orientation, that recognizes that a gender-balanced world is good for everyone. I think if there's one thing that this film will show you, it's that seismic shifts so often come from unexpected places. And I think we probably all know that in our lives, in our workplaces, and the organizations that we work with. That, in the words of our former president, ordinary people can do truly extraordinary things together. That was me paraphrasing Obama, by the way. One of the things that is most empowering to me about this particular moment in history, and I know it sounds odd to talk about this as a moment of empowerment, is that we now have the capacity to usher in the change that we seek in our own backyards. We don't have to wait for anyone, and we certainly don't have to ask for permission to get going. We don't have to play defense, we can play offense. Many of you probably participated in an extraordinary moment in our city's history with the Women's March earlier this year. Probably the most successful political march in LA history, and one of the most beautiful things about that march. My husband, who is your mayor, in case I missed that somewhere, if you live in the city of Los Angeles, when things like that happen, part of what one does at home is sort of just sit there and not move, because there's a concern about what might happen, right? Someone might get hurt, someone might cause something to happen. What was amazing about that march is I literally know of no report of any kind coming out of that march, not even a stolen purse. I mean, just amazing what happened. So we can make change at our companies and our nonprofits and our community groups and inside of government, we can push for women to have power, for women to have a status of equality. We can do this because we're already doing this here in Los Angeles. We're already doing this as part of the Garcetti administration. I want to give a special shout out to Araceli, who you'll hear from later, who used to head up our Women's Commission here in the city of Los Angeles. She's gone on to bigger and even more important things. But she's certainly left her mark on the work that I'm going to share with you right now. Let me tell you about a few of the many areas in which the Garcetti administration has hit 50-50. In our appointments to city boards, we've hit 50-50 for the first time in city history. In our appointments to, we have some of those people here, by the way, tonight. I see at least Renee. In our appointments to city commissions, we have hit 50-50 for the first time in history. In our city's police cadet program, on the mayor's youth council, in the city jobs program, at the library's STEM education program, we have hit 50-50 for our girls in the city of Los Angeles. Many of these things are extraordinary because of the subject matter that is covered. Those of you who have small children who are involved in STEM education programs, for instance, know that women comprise a minority of individuals being educated in those fields, especially once you reach the collegiate level, and certainly a minority of people who own those, who achieve jobs in those arenas. So to reach that kind of parity in the city among girls in these unconventional arenas is pretty extraordinary. Inside of the mayor's office, this administration has hit a mark that is actually beyond 50-50. But most important, we have reached gender parity among the mayor's senior staff. And functionally what that means is that there's no wage gap in the mayor's office. I think it's actually 98 cents female to the male dollar, which is almost statistically insignificant because it's constantly changing based on staff turnover. But when you have senior leadership, 50% female, 50% male, you actually can achieve this kind of close in the wage gap. Whatever the measure it is, senior staff, city commissioners, or some other level of leadership, you can be assured in this city that numerous women are now sitting at decision-making tables. And I don't mean tables that are comprised of 5 people and 7 people and a woman has a seat. I mean tables, because most decision-making tables in the city of LA are 5 or 7 people. I mean tables that have an African-American woman, an Asian-American woman, and a Latina, because we can actually bring all of those women to the table. A seat for a woman is not something we trade out for the next woman. Everybody can have a place because we're 50% of the population. The Garcetti administration accomplished its women's leadership work by being focused and purposeful, by embedding a commitment to gender equity into everything that your government does for you. The work of increasing the representation of women and girls for this administration isn't a program or an initiative. It is a fundamental value that has been weaved into all that this administration does. Mayor Garcetti is the first mayor in LA. I'm talking to him about, as if I don't live with him, but publicly, it's just easier. Mayor Garcetti is the first mayor in LA history to issue an executive directive that actually focused on gender equity. He called on every city department to collect more comprehensive data. He told them to investigate how their resources and services were being distributed to women and girls, and to set and meet, emphasis on meet, tangible goals for improvement where there were clear disparities in service. And those disparities are in some surprising places, and girls and women actually do pretty well in the city in some surprising places, as I just mentioned to you. The fact that we've reached gender parity in our police cadet program, I think, probably surprises a lot of people. Today, 35 city departments, 35 of them, have gender equity plans and liaisons. They issue updates on their work quarterly, they provide reports annually, and then they turn this administration's values into specific policies and results. I am very passionate about this work because through it, we have increased the number of female engineers in this city. We have tripled the number of female ITA workers in a single year. We have increased the number of female firefighters in this city. We have expanded the city service that assists domestic violence victims in this city so that it is now a program that is universally available to all victims in the city and not just available to women who live in particular zip codes. We have launched programming to improve girls' athleticism and self-esteem, adding literally thousands of slots for girls to our city's sports and fitness programs. because of the data collection that we've done on the issues of how we're providing services to women and girls, we learned that our city's Park and Recs department is comprised 22% of girls in its programming and 78% of boys. This is going to be a top priority for me in the next year, hoping by the end of 2018 to raise enough money for Girls Play LA to bring girls' sports participation up to at least 40%, down from the low of 22% here in the city. So those are just a few of the terrific outcomes we've been able to achieve through focused local action. And I want you all to consider, as you wake up every morning, and probably most of you get nervous about reading the newspaper. Certainly yesterday was a day that made me realize I can't go 2 hours without reading the newspaper, right? Because this news catches up to me by the time I'm at a next event. I'm speaking about Comey specifically. But what I really want to emphasize in that world where you wake up and wonder what's going to happen today, that there is a place here for your energies to be put to work. There is real work that needs to be done on behalf of immigrant women and children in this city, and real work that needs to be done on behalf of homeless women in this city. And I want to encourage any of you who have the interest to get involved in the Know Your Rights campaign that helps those immigrant women and children know their rights. Know the right to refuse to allow ICE into their house without a warrant, just as an example. Homelessness in this city is on the rise where women are concerned, particularly among older women. And there are wonderful outlets for making a significant difference where these kinds of issues are concerned. My husband likes to say, but I think a lot of people are also saying it, that if we could spend just a little bit of time focusing less on the most powerful man in this world, and a whole lot more time focusing on our city's most vulnerable populations, we could really move mountains here. Thank you, all of you, for the work that you do on those issues, because I know so many familiar faces here. I know this work is important to you as it is to us. And our hope is that we've created a turning point here in LA. Julie is trying to create this turning point. Nancy, Araceli are trying to create this turning point. So the future generations are going to look back on our time and say that that's when things really changed for women and girls in LA. That's when we started to see greater representation of women inside and outside of government. That's when gender balance in every facet of our lives finally began to be achieved. If that's our legacy, and if that is the ripple of progress that this work, the work of this administration, the work of this team working on this project, the work of Araceli working with the Women's Commission, the work of Shauna at Liberty Hill Foundation, and Renee and all her women activist work. I mean, I could point so many of you out here who are doing terrific work. If this is what we can say about what we have done here, where we really made the change that ensured that things were irreversible, I think we will have done incredible things in the city of LA, because that is the mark of so much of what I care about. Can I create something that no one can take back? And I know all of you are helping to create things that no one can take back from future generations in this city, and thank you for that. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing my husband on a little video here, saying a few words to folks here today. He couldn't be with us here because he's off courting the Olympic folks.